Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to yet another day 3 of the Cbse Term 1 board exam revision series. And today we are going to discuss with the chapter Reproductive Health live online for you. Those who are watching the session right now, don't forget to hit the like button, do share the video to your friends, and subscribe the amazing platform for more updates on biology. So, first of all, itself telling you there will be some background noises from the temple since I'm recording this particular video in the early morning. So there is the chanting of the mantras and everything you may hear from the session. So I will try to speak as much as loud in order to reduce or suppress the background noises. So with this, we are moving on. Yes, on 12th, we have already completed 2 chapters yesterday and day before yesterday, that is sexual reproduction in flowering plants and human reproduction. And on 14, that is today, we are completing reproductive health. Tomorrow, we'll have the principles of inheritance and variation, and day after tomorrow, we'll have the molecular basis of inheritance, and leads to the revision of the one-shot series of all the 5 chapters for your term 1 syllabus. So let's get started with this particular chapter, reproductive health. The very first, we are talking about what this reproductive health refers to. Yes, tell me, what is actually reproductive health refers to according to the World Health Organization? According to World Health Organization, reproductive health means the total well-being, not only in the medical aspect or something, the well-being of a particular organism or a particular individual in its physical, in its emotional, in its behavioral, and its social well-being must be followed in order to tell that a person is reproductively healthy. Okay, a person is said to be reproductively healthy if he is in a total well-being in all aspects of reproduction, like social, behavioral, emotional, and physical. Reproductive health and problems in 1951, this is a very familiar one. In 1951, India have initiated the India have initiated the program known as Family Planning Program. So that is a very important and a previous year NEET MCQ as well. So Family Planning Program was initiated by India in 1951. Okay, that can be asked for you as an MCQ question. Family planning was initiated on 1951. Reproductive health in a society forms a crucial part of the general health. Improved programs covering a wider range of areas are currently in operation under the popular name RCH, Reproductive and Child Health Care Program. This is a program that includes a wide range of related areas in connection with the reproduction. So this came after the family planning program. So family planning program is in 1951, and this RCH program after that. What is RCH? Reproductive and Child Health Care Program. The health and education of young people, marriage and a childbearing during some mature stages are the major attributes to the reproductively healthy society. Okay, everybody. Now we are going to discuss about the measures taken by the government. What are the different types of measures taken by the government? Maybe you might be feeling I'll be going a bit fast, but because this is a very simple chapter and everybody knows this chapter as well. Okay. Through audio visual medias and print medias, measures taken by the government to have a reproductively healthy society. They'll pass us the information through audio visual or communication media. Even family members like father, mother, close relatives or friends are involved in the awareness process. Sex education was introduced in the school to provide awareness to the students and proper information, not false information. Always the children in the adolescent age will try to receive only false information from others. So don't receive false information or don't give false information to the children. Always give true and proper information to the children about all these things, that is about the reproductive organ, about adolescence and related changes, safe and hygienic sexual practices, about sexually transmitted disease, especially AIDS, must be given special awareness to all the students. Clear, everyone? Next, when it's coming on to the process of amniocentesis, it is actually a technique to find out the chromosomal abnormalities. Okay, so what is the main function of the amniocentesis? Whenever we hear the term amniocentesis, the thing that comes to your mind is about the determining the sex of the fetus. But what is the actual use of the process called amniocentesis? It is actually used to find out the chromosomal abnormalities in a developing embryo. If there is any kind of chromosomal aberrations or chromosomal disorders in a particular embryo, easily that can be found out in every hospital for the baby during the first trimester or something. Amniocentesis will be done. Okay, but the doctor won't be able to disclose. Doctor won't disclose the particular sex of the particular fetus or the baby. Why? Because that may lead to the destruction of the baby as well. If it is a girl or boy, if whatever they need, otherwise they'll actually leads to the termination of pregnancy. But for that, in order to prevent that, what they'll do is they'll just simply find out whether it is having any kind of genetical or chromosomal abnormalities or not. How is it done? It is actually, we will be collecting, you all know that around the fetus or around the embryo, there will be the placental fluid, there will be the amnion layer of the placenta, what happens, and also what amniotic fluid will be filled inside the amnion layer. So from that, a small part of the fluid is drawn out, and that is actually tested in order to find out the chromosomal pattern. Okay, so that test is based upon the chromosomal pattern in the amniotic fluid surrounding the developing embryo. This is also used or not used, it is actually misused for the fetal sex determination as well. That is why this is strictly banned to use out or to check out the sex of the fetus. That may lead to female feticide and destruction of the babies if they are not their desired gender or desired sex of the baby. Suppose some parents may be desiring a grade for a baby, that is a boy baby, and suppose if she is carrying a female, then after by this technique, they'll start destroying, they'll move methods to destroy that fetus because they don't want a girl, a baby. Okay, so in order to avoid that kind of things, what happened, the doctors won't disclose what is the actually the sex of the fetus, even though they will knew whether it is a boy or a girl, because they will be definitely doing this process of amniocentesis in order to find out what if there is any kind of genetic or chromosomal abnormalities in the developing embryo. Next, coming on to the population explosion and the birth control measures, improved quality of life. What are the methods or what are the process or things that leads to the increased population? Improved quality of life of the people. Second one, increased health facilities. Third one, better living condition had an explosive impact on the explosion of population. Rapid decline, also with that rapid decline in the death rate, maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate. Due to the very high facilities provided by the hospitals, there is a very decline in the death rate of the pregnant mothers and the newborn babies as well. So MMR stands for what? MMR stands for maternal mortality rate and IMR stands for the infant mortality rate. Okay. And also, there are some steps to overcome the population explosion, that is by using various contraceptive methods, educating people about the demerits of a large family, increasing the marriageable age of male and female. Now it is for the males, it is 21, and for the females, it is 18, right? So this can be further increased in order to avoid or maintain a gap between the increasing population, and providing incentive to parents having 1 or 2 children. That is, every time, since people are always people, what happens if the government starts giving any kind of gifts or tokens or incentives to the people who are having only 2 children in their family, then they'll start to maintain or control the birth of their babies. Otherwise, that may exceed up to 3, 4, or 5, or depending upon but mostly nowadays it is maybe 1 or 2, maximum up to 3. not more than that, but in certain families we'll see more than that as well. Okay, so these are the methods by which you can overcome the population explosion happening around us. Now, the most important thing that we discussed over there is the usage of contraceptive methods. So in this chapter, we are going to study about the various type of contraceptive methods. And what are these contraceptive methods? These are used to prevent the unwanted pregnancies. These are used to prevent the unwanted pregnancy. This is a very, very important one. Okay, very important slide upon, or very important point. The characteristics of an ideal contraceptive: it should be user friendly, it should be easily available, it should be effective, it should be reversible, no side effect, no way interferes with the sexual drive or the sexual act. Okay, so what are the main characteristics of an ideal contraceptive? It should be user friendly, it should be easily available, it should be effective, it should be reversible, it should have no side effect, and it should not interfere in the sexual desire or the sexual act of the particular person using over there. So what is a contraceptive method? A contraceptive method is actually used for preventing the unwanted pregnancies and modifying the menstrual cycle. An ideal contraceptive should be effective, user-friendly, easily available, no side effect, reversible, and that should not in any way interfere with the sexual drive of the person. Clear? Now we are moving on to the various categories that have been included in the contraceptive method. First one is the natural or traditional method. Natural or traditional methods. After that, you have the barrier method. Then you have the IUDs, intrauterine devices. What is IUDs? Intrauterine devices. Intrauterine devices is IUDs. There are various types of IUDs as well, but mainly we will tell IUDs, intrauterine devices. Oral contraceptive methods, injections or injectables, implants that are implanted under the skin, and surgical methods. Surgical method are mainly what? Permanent contraceptive method. What are the two? In case of males, you will take out vasectomy. What you will take it out? You will take it out vasectomy. And in case of females, you will take out tubectomy. Clear? So vasectomy and tubectomy are the main final or what irreversible contraceptive methods that are used to complete the pregnancy in a female. Clear? Yes. Now let's discuss one by one in a very detailed way what are the different methods included and what does each of the method helps to. Okay, so let's start one by one right now over here. What are natural methods or traditional method? Natural method or traditional method means they work on the principle of avoiding chances of ovum and sperm meeting. It includes three main methods, that is periodic abstinence, withdrawal or coitus interrupts, and lactational amenorrhea. So what are the three main methods coming under the particular natural method or the traditional method? It is periodic abstinence, it is a lactational amenorrhea, and also coitus interrupts or withdrawal symptom. Periodic abstinence means the couples avoid from coitus from day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle when ovulation is highly expected, or the fertile period. So stay away from the fertile period. You will call them as the periodic abstinence. The male partner withdraws his penis from the vagina just before ejaculation to avoid insemination. You will call them as the withdrawal method or the coitus interrupts method. Coming on to lactational amenorrhea. What is amenorrhea? Absence of menstruation. So during the process of intense feeding or intense lactation, chances of fertilization is nil because there will be a complete absence of menstruation after parturition for the next few months. Okay, so during intense lactation, no ovulation is there, so chances of fertilization is also nil. So what is natural method? Natural method means that it is actually working on the principle to avoid the physical meeting of the egg and the sperm. It consists of three major steps, that is a periodic, or three major variety of steps, that is a periodic abstinence, to stay away from coitus during the 10 to 17 days of the menstrual cycle where ovulation is highly expected. Second one, withdrawal or coitus interrupts method, where the male partner will withdraw his penis from the vagina just before ejaculation to avoid the insemination method. Third one will be the lactational amenorrhea, which is the absence of menstruation during the period of intense lactation, where no ovulation will be there, so chances of pregnancy are almost nil. Coming on to the second method, that is the barrier method. Coming on to the second method, that is a barrier method. Here the ovum and the sperms are prevented from physical meeting with the help of a barrier. How is it done? They are prevented physically meeting with the help of a barrier. And this includes the following steps. Number one, it is the use of condom. So this is the male condom. This is the female condom. And what is it? It is actually, condoms are mainly used by males and females as well. Okay, males and females. A barrier which is made up of rubber or latex sheath. Okay, rubber or latex sheath that is used to cover the penis or vagina or cervix of the female. And what is its main objective? Condoms, usage of condom will prevent the user from contracting STDs or sexually transmitted disease. Okay, so that is the first method that is involved in the barrier method. Coming on to the second part of the barrier method, it includes diaphragm, cervical caps, and vault. What are the things? Diaphragm, cervical caps, and vault. They are also barrier made up of rubber. The other one was latex sheath. Over here it is a rubber that is actually used by the female partners only during the process of coitus. That is, diaphragm, cervical caps, and vault are used only by the female during the female reproductive tract during the coitus. To increase the efficiency of the contraceptives, spermicidal creams, jellies, and foams are also used along with barriers to increase their contraceptive efficiency. What are the advantages? This barrier methods contains a lot of advantages. And what are their advantages? They are disposable. They can be self-inserted. They are reusable. They prevent conception by blocking the entry of sperms through the cervix. So what are the main 4 points or advantages of the barrier method? They are easily disposable. They can be self-inserted. They are reusable, and they prevent the conception by blocking the entry of sperms through the cervix. So these are the major main functions or the advantages of the diaphragm, cervical caps, and the vault. Before we come on to the intrauterine device, I just have to tell you about one more thing importantly. So contraceptive is used to prevent the meeting of the sperm and the ovum. So firstly, we studied about the natural method. It consists of periodic abstinence, withdrawal or coitus interruptus, and lactational amenorrhea. Next method includes a barrier method, where we studied about the condom that have been used by both males and females to avoid the physical meeting of the sperm and the ovum. And it prevents the users from contracting STDs. Secondly, we studied inside the barrier method itself, we studied about the usage of diaphragms, vault, and cervical caps that is used or inserted into the female reproductive tract only during the coitus process. And for increasing the efficiency of these methods, you can use spermicidal creams, jellies, and foams. And what are the advantages of the barrier method? They are disposable, they are self-inserted, they are reusable, and they prevent the conception by blocking the entry of sperm through the cervix or vagina. Okay, coming on to the next process, that is about the intrauterine devices. This can be inserted only. They cannot be self-inserted just like the diaphragms or condoms or something. This can be inserted by only doctors or trained nurses into the female uterus through vagina. IUDs can be of mainly three types. That is non-medicated IUDs. Oh my God. Non-medicated IUDs, for example, is the Cbse loop. Copper releasing IUDs, copper T, copper 7, multi-lot 375, and hormone releasing IUDs, progesterone and LNG20. So what are the three main methods? Non-medicated IUDs, example Cbse loop, copper releasing IUDs, copper T, copper 7, and multi-lot 375, hormone releasing IUDs, progesterone or LNG20. What are this? This is a very, very important one. Okay, so don't forget. Non-medicated IUDs, Lippes loop, copper-releasing IUDs, copper T, copper 7, multilor 375, and the hormone-releasing IUDs is the progesterone or what? LNG20. And what is a function? IUDs increases the phagocytosis of the sperm in the uterus. IUDs increases the phagocytosis of the sperm inside the uterus. Coming on to the copper releasing IUDs, the copper releasing IUDs releases copper, and what happens? They releases copper, and this copper will reduce the motility and fertilizing capacity of the sperm. Very important. Name the type of contraceptive that reduces the motility and fertilizing capacity of the sperm. Copper releasing IUDs. They may be giving in the option copper T, copper 7, multilor 375 and all. Okay. The hormone releasing IUDs make the uterus unsuitable for implantation and the cervix hostile to the sperm. It is an ideal method for females who wants to delay pregnancy and spacing between children. Very important, guys. One question from this chapter will definitely get from this area of intrauterine devices for sure. Okay, so what is IU? So now you may receive a confusion. So you told IUDs, and here it is mentioned IUCDs. IUCDs means intrauterine contraceptive methods. IUD means intrauterine devices, or IUCDs means intrauterine contraceptive devices. Okay, so ideal method or the best method for contraception or will be what? IUDs, intrauterine devices. It is of three types. You can either use non-medicated IUDs, you can use copper releasing IUDs or hormone releasing IUDs. Examples of each of the things have been given above. And IUDs or IUCDs, they increases the phagocytosis of the sperms inside the uterus. And the copper releasing IUDs actually releases copper ions that reduces the motility and the fertilizing capacity of the sperms. Coming on to the hormone releasing IUDs, they will actually make the uterus unsuitable for implantation and the cervix hostile to the sperms. And this IUCDs or intrauterine devices or intrauterine contraceptive devices or IUCDs, this is the best contraceptive method which can be used by female who wants to delay pregnancy or needs spacing between two children. Done? Is it clear for everyone? Is it clear? Yes. Coming on to the next part, that is about the oral pills. What is about the oral pills? Oral pills will mainly consist of two important contents, that is about the progesterone and or the progesterone estrogen combination. And this is also again used by females only in the form of tablets. And what is the function of this oral contraceptive? They inhibit ovulation and implantation, as well as they change the quality of the cervical mucus to prevent or retard the entry of sperms. Administration of progesterone or progesterone estrogen combination within 72 hours of coitus is found to be very effective and used as emergency contraceptive. So emergency contraceptive must be used within 72 hours of coitus. And they are used as what? Emergency contraceptive. Okay, very, very important point. Oral contraceptive, either progesterone or progesterone estrogen combination, they'll inhibit the ovulation and also alter the cervical mucus to prevent or retard the entry of sperms. They'll have administration of this particular oral contraceptive within 72 hours of coitus will act as an emergency contraceptive method. Coming on to the surgical method or the final method or sterilization method you can call. It is actually the terminal method of contraception that has no reversibility till today, is seen or taking place in both males and females to prevent the pregnancies. Vasectomy is actually the surgical method in males, surgical sterilization method in case of males, where a small part of vas deferens is removed or tied up through a small incision made on the scrotum look like this. The vas deferens is cut and tight so that the sperms produced by the testis won't come up to the urethra for transfer. Tubectomy is actually the surgical method in females in which a small part of the fallopian tube, is removed surgically, just exactly as how vas deferens is removed. Exactly like that, a small part of the fallopian tube is cut also, in which the ovum will get stuck over here and will get disintegrated. These techniques are highly effective and their reversibility is very, very poor. Will be highly effective, no chances of conception after this, but the reversibility is not at all good, or the reversibility is very, very poor. Coming on to the next slide, slide number 13 of this chapter, side effect of this contraceptive. Till now we talked about, we just have talking about the advantages and what are the functions of this contraceptive. And now we have to talk about about the side effect of contraceptive methods. What are the main side effects? It is very important that the selection of contraceptive method should be done under the consultation of a doctor. It will have ill effects like nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough through bleeding, irregular menstrual bleeding, or even that may lead to breast cancer as well if you continuously use some kind of poor quality contraceptive method. So only after the consultation with a doctor you're advised to use up any kind of contraceptive methods. Coming on to the term MTP, or medical termination of pregnancy, MTP or medical termination of pregnancy. It is the voluntary termination of pregnancy before voluntary intentional termination of pregnancy before full term is called MTP, or medical termination of pregnancy, or you will call them as induced abortion. It plays an important role in decreasing population by aborting the unwanted pregnancies. But in India, MTP is legalized in 1971 with a very important restriction to prevent its misuse, such as indiscriminate and illegal female feticide. 1 second. Yes. Yes, everyone. So MTPs is actually legalized, and it has been given the grant to do the following: to get rid of unwanted pregnancy due to unprotected intercourse or failure of contraceptive used during coitus or rapes. When pregnancy continuation is harmful either for mother or fetus or both, then that can be used for what? MTP. MTPs are relatively considered safe during the first trimester or up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. Very important point. First trimester or 12 weeks of pregnancy. Second trimester are more risky because they'll start developing the other body parts as well. Clear? So it is very important that MTPs are considered relatively safe during the first trimester or up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. 1 second. Okay, everybody. Yes. Coming on to the next part, that is the sexually transmitted diseases. Let me show you how many slides are left out. 14. We have only 3 more slides left out to complete this easy peasy chapter. STDs or RTIs or VD, what are all those things that are transmitted through sexual intercourse are called sexually transmitted disease, STDs, or venereal disease, VD, or RTIs, reproductive tract infection. Some of the common reproductive tract infections are the gonorrhea, the syphilis, genital herpes, chlamydiasis, genital warts, trichomonasis, hepatitis B, and the AIDS. Mainly, you may be common with this term only as the reproductive tract infection or venereal diseases. right? Hepatitis B and HIV is also transmitted by the sharing of infection needle, surgical instrument with the infected persons, transfusion of blood, or from infected mother to fetus. Except genital herpes, HIV and hepatitis B, they are incurable, whereas all others are completely curable if detected earlier and treated properly. But genital herpes, HIV and hepatitis cannot be cured at all. Okay, everyone. Timely detection and proper treatment of STDs are very important. Otherwise, it leads to complication later, which will lead to, this is a very important, complications of STDs, pelvic inflammatory disorders, abortions, stillbirth, ectopic pregnancies, infertility, or even cancer of the reproductive tract can be the what complications of the STDs if they are not detected earlier and treated properly. Okay, so what are the points that we come under the STDs or sexually transmitted diseases? These diseases are caused due to the sexual intercourse, and they are also known as venereal diseases or reproductive tract infection. Some of the common STDs are the gonorrhea, syphilis, genital herpes, chlamydiasis, genital warts, trichomonasis, hepatitis B, and about the AIDS. Hepatitis B and HIV is also transmitted by sharing of infection needle or injection needle and surgical instruments with infected persons, transfusion of blood, or by the sharing of or by the from infected mother to the fetus. Genital herpes, HIV, and hepatitis B cannot be curable even though it is detected earlier, while all other diseases or STDs can be completely curable if they are detected earlier. Some of the complications, if they are not detected earlier, are the pelvic inflammatory disorders, abortion, stillbirth, cancer, ectopic pregnancies, infertility as well. What are the methods? Oh my God. Yes. What are the methods that you will find out for what? To control this particular STDs, avoid sex with unknown partner or multiple partner. Always use condoms during coitus. Go to a qualified doctor in case of any doubt for early detection and get complete treatment if diagnosed. Now we have told a lot of things, and now we are coming on to yet another portion that is about the infertility. What is infertility? The couples who are unable to reproduce children. Okay, they are said to be what? Infertile. And this may be reasons, may be many physical, congenital diseases, drugs, they may be using the medicines that may be eating, immunological or physiological as well. So for those, a new technique have been done, that is the assisted reproductive technology. That includes the following. You might have heard about the test tube baby program and all. So that includes the IVF or in vitro fertilization, fertilization outside the body followed by the embryo transfer. So fertilization outside the body. In test tube baby program, you will call them. The ovum from the wife or the donor and the sperms from the husband or the donor are collected and induced to fertilize in the laboratory condition. Induced to fertilize in the laboratory condition. The zygote or early embryo. What is early embryo? Up to 8 blastomeres. Up to 8 blastomeres. They are transferred into the fallopian tube, and that method you will call them as a SIFT or zygote intrafallopian transfer. And the embryos with more than 8 blastomeres, you'll call them as IUT, intrauterine transfer into the uterus. And what happens? Then you will have the gamete intrafallopian transfer method. That is a transfer of gametes collected from the donor into the fallopian tube of another female who cannot produce an ovum in order to just give birth to their baby. Clear? Clear? IVF is done in which case the male can produce sperms, female can produce healthy ovum as well, but the female cannot provide the necessary condition for the process of fertilization. Suppose the motility of the sperms is less. In those conditions, or if a female cannot produce a healthy ovum or a male cannot produce healthy sperms, then what happens? The donor will be found out, and either the sperm from the male or the donor will be collected, and the egg from the female or the donor will be collected, and they will be allowed to fertilize inside the stimulated conditions inside the laboratory, same as inside the body. And after this, if the female is able to provide the necessary conditions for the further development like implantation and development of the fetus, then the particular embryo will be transferred into the, if it is up to 8 blastomeres, it is transferred into the fallopian tube itself, because after 8 blastomeres only, it will start moving towards dividing and moving towards the uterus and get implanted. Or else if it is more than 8 blastomeres, then it will be directly implanted into the uterus itself. That's first case. Second one, gamete indra. If they are not able to produce any type of gamete, then a donor is found out and gametes are collected from them. Next, third method will be the intracytoplasmic sperm injection. If the sperm is not having enough motility, sperms will be collected, they will be directly injected inside the ovum itself. Artificial insemination. What is artificial insemination? Infertility cases in which the male partner is unable to produce healthy sperms. Clear? IUI means intrauterine insemination. Clear? Clear, everybody? So these are the major methods of assisted reproductive technologies as well. So we have successfully completed the chapter Reproductive Health, a very easy, very small chapter where we have to study about the RCH family planning initially very in a single sentence. Then we studied about the contraceptives, about the population explosion, the various reasons that leads to the method of population explosion. Then we studied about the ideal contraceptive conditions and about the different contraceptive, what are their functions and how do they help it, their side effect, then about the medical termination of pregnancy, about amniocentesis, about sexually transmitted diseases, their complications, how to avoid STDs, various type, which are all the which are all curable STDs, everything we have studied. Then last part we studied about infertility and about the assisted reproductive technologies as well. So see you in the next class with a very, very important chapter, Principles of Inheritance and Variation. See you tomorrow, everybody. Thank you so much.